Hey folks, welcome back to an episode of the Peach Pundit Podcast with Jason Pye, joined by Buzz Brockway and Scott Turner. Guys,
hey guys,
how's it
How
going?
we doing?
It's going. Now, no complaints.
It is.
No complaints. One day I'm gonna get you guys' names confused. I'm gonna call you Scott Brockway and Buzz Turner. I'm waiting for the day that happens.
Both of those names sound awesome to me.
At least it's not Boston Rockway.
Yeah. That guy follows me around, and he's become an annoyance.
I understand that Boston Rockway has his own Twitter account.
He does.
He does.
Oh, wow.
He follows me.
It's definitely not a burner account for Buzz Brockway.
So, guys, we got a lot. We got a lot of things to like.
So much to talk about.
To roll through. The first and foremost, Georgia's embarrassment in the 14th congressional district. Did something really stupid last week. I mean, that's routine. She does stupid stuff. Like
this is a whole nother level.
This is a whole nother level of stupid. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, who we usually refer to as She Who Must Not Be Named on the podcast, she attended the America First Political Action Committee's conference, which is apparently run by, or it was being emceed by, Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is it's a PG podcast, PG-13-ish sometimes. He's a little asshole. And he's a racist. He's I forgot what term he uses to describe what he believes.
What, Groiper or something? Goiper, something like
Groiper. He is not a fan of Jews.
Incel, I guess, is another thing he calls himself.
I don't even know what that is, but sure. He said that the media is comparing Putin to Hitler as if that's a bad thing.
Holocaust denier at various times.
He was. There's a video I've seen of him openly bragging that his speech was going to be racist and hateful and all this stuff. And Marjorie Taylor Greene showed up at his event literally right before he was saying nice things about Putin and spoke.
And the crowd, I think this is important too. The crowd started chanting Putin's name, as if that's we should be celebrating him and his invasion of Ukraine and all this kind of stuff.
He literally said, "Let's hear it for Russia."
Yeah,
and the crowd cheered, and they started chanting Putin's name during that moment. These are the moments leading up to Marjorie Taylor Greene being introduced as the speaker on stage. She heard this with her own ears. She was aware that this was happening because she was in the room when it happened.
Yeah.
She's an embarrassment and she needs to resign. That's it.
Yeah. She's not gonna, right?
She's not gonna. No, I know, because I know she's not, because she has to continue the grift, but she needs to resign. Not just, she needs to do it for the 14th congressional district, because they effectively have no representation in Congress. She has effectively guaranteed that they're not going to have any representation when Republicans, if and when Republicans take back the House. Mm-hmm. I know McCarthy had previously said that he was going to give her and Paul Gosar back their old committee assignments. They might even get better committee assignments. She has consistently been a thorn in the side of Republican leadership, and you can only get away with that for so long. And when you associate yourself with known racists, this was not a secret. This was not some sort of surprise. Nick Fuentes is a known racist, and you still showed up to his event. You still gave a speech. You left. You avoided the media initially before you came out, and you used God and Jesus's name.
Yeah. Yep.
As it's some sort of insulation for your own stupidity. Happily fucking resign.
Okay, there with the PG rating. So for those who don't know what Jason is talking about, after the event, she got immediate blowback. There were videotapes that she was not aware. She was in front of a crowd of 1,200 people, and she wasn't aware, I guess, that she was being recorded because it was on Twitter.
Was it really that big a crowd? I mean,
that's what it was reported as. I don't know. I wasn't there. I wouldn't be there. And neither, frankly, would anybody that I know who is a sane individual would go there. So I have to rely on the reports. The reports were that there were 1,200 people, mostly white men, there cheering her on when she got on the stage. And when she was questioned later, she said she had no idea that this was a white nationalist group. She said that she didn't know who Nick Fuentes was prior to her showing up. She didn't, and she did not, quote unquote, agree with anything controversial that he might stand for, without really defining what controversial meant. There was a CBS reporter who tried to ask her questions, and she kept interrupting him, saying, I'm going to get this out. I'm going to get this out, which I understand that frustration as you want to make sure you get your whole statement out before you're asked questions. But he kept trying to say, well, they're white nationalists. They're white nationalists. They're white nationalists. And she kept interrupting. I don't want to hear that right now. I want to finish what I'm going to say. And then she went on this Twitter rant later where she tried to say, I'm not going to forego speaking to a large group of people just because they're a bunch of white nationalist, racist, scumbag human beings, essentially is what she was saying. All of that to say, how many times are we going to have this type of story come out about Marjorie Taylor Greene? And it's not like the headlines stop there, because last night on the State of the Union, she could not bring herself to be decorous in any way. And she was shouting at the president while he was talking. Now, look, did I agree with everything? No. Did I shout at the TV? Yeah, I shouted at the TV a couple of times when
you weren't in the chamber of the Congress.
I was watching
not there
at home.
Right. So, I mean, if she's acting like she's sitting on her couch and she's not a member of Congress. And there's certain ways you have to behave to give the president of the United States of America, regardless of what party he's from, you have to give him the courtesy of the fact that he's the president of the United States. And you figure, oh, I'm going to make headlines. And you and your little brunette buddy over there screaming and yelling as one of our friends on Twitter said, Sweet Caroline just came on. I mean, what are you doing?
Scott is referring to Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of Colorado.
Yeah. I mean, the photo of those two standing up screaming at the president while he's trying to give the State of the Union address, and everybody around them is like, shut up.
Right.
Just shut up. And
to me, that photo to me just was the perfect representation of her time in Congress, sitting in the back of the room, yelling at people, and everybody around her saying, hey, shut up, lady. Nobody listens to her. Nobody takes her seriously. I don't even know that the people at Nick Fuentes' event, the so-called American First Political Action Committee, take her seriously. It's ridiculous. And I was, MTG has an opponent named Jennifer Strahan. She's a businesswoman who lives in the district, who is conservative, who wants to go to Congress to get stuff done, not just to raise money and build a Twitter following and create outrage. So, I mean, I don't live in the 14th. The people in the 14th are going to have to do this. They're going to have to deal with this issue themselves. There was one interesting thing, though. A former Floyd County Republican Party chair went public and said, enough is enough. She's embarrassed us. We got to do something about this. Will this be the tipping point? I don't know. But you're right, Jason. She should, if she had any shame, she would resign.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any shame. If Kevin McCarthy had any guts, they would disown her and they would kick her out of the caucus. They would treat her like they did Steve King, but they haven't.
Or how they're treating Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger.
Right. And that, look, I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, because the RNC got organized and mustered to condemn and censure Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. I don't know how our three representatives on the RNC voted, so I'm not going to point any fingers at them, but where's the condemnation? Where is the executive committee of the Georgia Republican Party, or any any Republican Party in the state of Georgia that she's represented by? What are they? Come on, man. They're still showing up at a white supremacist rally. That's ridiculous.
They're still looking for 12,000 votes.
Well, Governor Kemp did have something to say about it, Buzz.
He did.
His statement said Governor Kemp believes there's absolutely no place in our state or the Republican Party for white supremacy, anti-Semitism, or hate of any kind. Ultimately, Congresswoman Greene is accountable to the voters of the 14th Congressional District at the ballot box every 2 years. Yeah, I mean, at some certain point, at what point does that become the standard operating procedure for every Republican, whether they live in the 14th or outside the 14th. That sentiment from the governor is exactly how I feel. It's like, we need to do something about this lady. It needs to happen at the ballot box. She's not going to resign. And as a matter of fact, she, even Herschel Walker, when offered the opportunity to stand on stage with her now, rejected the opportunity.
Backed out, right?
He backed out. He was on the agenda to go speak at a Second Amendment pro Second Amendment rally where she was the headliner, and he was going to be one of the speakers there, and he backed out. He said, I'm not going to that anymore. And he pointed to Marjorie Taylor Greene as the reason why he didn't.
Good on him.
Good for Herschel.
But
so Jody Heiss is supposed to speak at that event. Has he backed out?
No.
I hope he does.
I mean, I hope he does too, but I mean, he should, considering he's going to be, if he beats Brad Raffensperger, he's going to be in a competitive statewide race. But you know who's not back? You know who joined the event? David Perdue. Yep. He joined the event saying that it's a pro second. You're running against a black guy. Oh, you ran against a boy. Sorry. He was thinking he was running for Senate still. Good Lord. Jason, calm down. I'm getting worked up about this. But he'll be running against a black woman, and
he's not, because he's not going to be the nominee.
He won the primary.
Right.
He would be running against a black woman in November. That photo op's gonna look really good in the campaign ad.
Yes,
right.
Come on.
It makes you unsupportable and eminently beatable by a Democrat, any Democrat, especially Stacey Abrams. She's going to take you to the woodshed on a regular basis for showing up to that thing.
And David
standing
Perdue,
next to her.
You thought he would have learned his lesson in 2020. He got taken to the woodshed by John Ossoff.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he's creating a no-win situation for the Republican nominee if he becomes the nominee. So not only did he do that, but I think the reason why he's doing it was similar to why he came out against the Rivian deal. Rivian is an electric truck maker. They've announced a $5 billion plant near Social Circle, Georgia. And there are some people out there who are not in my backyarders who are saying, I don't want this anywhere near my house. I moved to Social Circle so I have a rural lifestyle. However, there are 7,500 jobs coming to that area, and it's going to be an economic engine for generations to come. David Perdue, sensing that he needs to differentiate himself from Brian Kemp in any way that he possibly can, his campaign is not taking off, announced that he is in opposition to the Rivian plant and that he would end it once he became governor, thus killing 7,500 jobs in a rural area of Georgia who desperately need this type of economic opportunity.
This is a big deal out in some parts of Newton County and Walton County. There is some local opposition. This past weekend, I was hanging out with our good friend Aaron Brooks, who was telling me about some of the opposition out there. Some of it's understandable, a lot of it's not. But it's at a state recovering from a pandemic, and there are literally jobs everywhere you go. This sort of opportunity in this part of, I mean, it's not technically Metro Atlanta, and this part of Georgia outside of Athens and Atlanta is needed. You need jobs like this. And I think I even mentioned when this deal got rolled out that my barber, who's in Social Circle, was telling me how excited he was about the new clientele that was going to be coming in.
Yeah,
right.
It gives him, because he's looking to expand. He wants to buy another barber shop, and this gives him an opportunity to get more customers in the door to build his brand, to build his business. And I imagine that every business owner who's in the area, there's no business owner alive who does not want to expand their business. Yeah. So I think
one of the accusations, and I haven't confirmed that this is an accurate accusation, but one of the accusations is that George Soros is an investor in Rivian, and I can't address the veracity of that claim, but Jeff Bezos is an investor. I mean,
cares?
Yeah,
if you use Salesforce for your job, you're giving those guys money. If you use Amazon, you're giving those guys money.
Yeah.
The argument that Soros is an investor in this, he's not the whole owner of it.
Right.
And And it represents a huge economic opportunity for people who think like us, like we're conservatives.
And look, I mean, folks, I drive an electric car. Okay. It's got a Brian Kemp bumper sticker on the back, which is really hilarious because you ought to see some of the looks I get. It blows people's mind. But there are billions and billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars being invested in this. I bought an electric car because, I don't really want to give money to buy oil from corrupt people like Venezuelan corrupt government or
Russians
and Russians and all these sorts of things. So that's an appeal to me. But electric cars are here to stay, and these guys are building a really cool electric truck and electric SUVs. So people can do that or can drive those sorts of vehicles if they want. So
right, and it's generational economic opportunity.
Right,
it'll be for many generations, and it'll have a trickle down effect for that whole area. But it goes back to the original point of David Perdue actually calling for killing 7,500 jobs.
Yeah, and
and why did he do that?
Yeah, look, Scott, you and I and Jason, we all agree that I am. When I was in the legislature, these kind of deals come up. I don't like government giveaways. I don't like some of the tax incentives that are put in this. But unfortunately, this is the way the game is played. And this happens. I mean, Texas, one of those conservative states in the country, has, I may have the number wrong, but I think I'm right, about a $400 million fund that they call a deal closing fund. And when it gets down to it, what Texas does, let's say it's down between Texas and Georgia, Texas dips into that fund, opens up the checkbook, and say, "What's it going to take?" And they cut a check directly to those people to bring those jobs there. So this is competition among states. I would prefer that this didn't happen, that we didn't have to offer special incentives to people, but we do. And in the long run, you've got 7,500 jobs here, and David Perdue. What's dangerous about this? David Perdue is a businessman. That's his whole reason for running for office in the first place, was because he was a businessman going to bring business expertise to government, and he should know by taking this stand, it may play to a few people in a primary, but it has a chilling effect on Georgia businesses. If he gains traction and it starts to look like he's going to win the primary, there are going to be businesses who will put their projects on hold to wait and see what happens, to see if Georgia is going to continue to be a business-friendly environment. So this is all this sort of rhetoric. It gets thrown around in primary races. It has real-world impact on real people's lives and on the decisions that business owners make. So, come on, David Perdue's smarter than this. He ought not be talking this way.
He might be smarter. He might be smarter than this, but I don't think it's what he actually believes. I think that if he were governor, he would have tried to close this deal as much as Brian Kemp did.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And somebody wants to offer you $5 billion, you say yes.
The reason why David Perdue is opposed to this, the reason why he's willing to be seen on stage next to Marjorie Taylor Greene, the reason why he's not condemning what Marjorie Taylor Greene said, or anti-Semitism, or white nationalism, the reason why he's not doing that is because he has slipped in the polls. He's not making traction. He needs to find an audience everywhere he goes. He doesn't have it. And so he needs to justify the reason why he's in the campaign. And that's why he's doing it. He would have definitely closed this deal if he was in charge, but he's not. Now he's taken the contrarian point of view only because he's trying to find some path to the governor's mansion, and it's just not there without it.
I'm just trying to think of the strategy meeting inside David Perdue's campaign where they said, "Guys, I know what we should do. We should support not having 7,500 jobs in Georgia." Yeah. What idiot thinks of that?
Well, we've already covered this, Jason, that the competent campaign operatives have all gone to work for other campaigns.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't see that as something like that even a sophomore or poli-sci major wouldn't propose. It's just a stupid idea. Anyway, Buzz, one thing real fast, I do want to correct you. David Perdue is, you say he's running because he's a better businessman. He wants to bring a business mind to government. He's running because Daddy told him to.
Well, I guess what I meant is, yeah, you're right. What I meant is the first time when he first ran for the Senate, that was his campaign. I'm a businessman. I'm going to bring that business smarts to Washington.
Well, Buzz just killed my segue. He was running because Daddy told him to.
That's my job, to kill your segue.
And Daddy, of course, being Donald Trump. Donald Trump weighed in on some Georgia politics this week. See, this is where the segue was going to go, Buzz. So Donald Trump put out a statement earlier this week in which he said, and I quote, "What is happening in the city of Atlanta is nothing short of disgraceful. It's national news and a regional embarrassment. The good people of Buckhead don't want to be a part of defunding the police and the high crime that's plaguing their communities. However, RINOs like Governor Brian Kemp, the man responsible, along with his puppet master, Mitch McConnell, for the loss of 2 Senate seats in the 2020 presidential vote." This is like the worst run-on sentence I've ever seen. Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan,
Jeff
Jeff, Speaker David Ralston, and State Senators Butch Miller, Jeff Mullis, and John Albers always talk a big game, but they don't deliver. There's no comma after game and before but either. What good is having Republican leaders if they're unwilling to fight for what they campaigned on? Ending a sentence on a preposition. Every RINO must go! Exclamation point. Let the voters decide on the very popular city of Buckhead proposal. Why am I not shocked that Donald Trump? It's like this is dead. Like this was dead long before this statement ever came out. Scott, I think you told us before we came on air that like he actually attacked two people in this statement, two people in the statement who were supportive of the city of Buckhead.
Yeah, multiple people. Two that we know of are Jeff Mullis and John Albers. Jeff Mullis, the rules chairman in the Senate. John Albers from Roswell and a member of my legislative delegation, a friend of mine. Both have supported the Buckhead City, and they were called out as RINOs by Trump in this statement about Buckhead. The other thing that you need to understand about the city of Buckhead is those people that are normally Republican voters don't like Donald Trump. They didn't vote for him this last time around, which is where your 11,000 votes came from. That cost you the state of Georgia.
Biden won this area by 60% of the vote.
Right. So this area that he is supposedly saying it really wants this didn't vote for Donald Trump, and he's out there slaying really solid conservative Republicans. I mean, I don't know how you get away with calling the speaker a RINO after he's already showed that if you attack him or his caucus, he's going to kill your bill. And now he doesn't care who you are. Right. So he's facing down the American Federation for Children and their millions and millions of dollars they could invest in running candidates against his caucus members and killing school choice because he got his feelings hurt. Could you imagine what David Ralston's reaction was?
He probably drug this bill out and killed it again. That's probably what the speaker did.
The speaker, I can imagine the speaker coming out, holding it up and double tapping it I can see that happening.
I mean, it's like so much a Trump thing, like that. One of the guys who's like we've talked about this before. The guy who was like the leader of the Buckhead City movement, retweeting articles from VDare and other white supremacist websites is like, of course Donald Trump supports this. Of course he does. Well, the merits of Buckhead City should or should not be debated inside the Georgia General Assembly. I don't care. But it just, but when it just, this is just, it's dumb. It's dumb to attack like this. It was him to get it was an opportunity for him to take another cheap shot at Brian Kemp.
And I think it's a so a couple of weeks ago in Insider Advantage, there was a very curious article about how the Buckhead movement, this was like a day or two after Jeff Duncan, the lieutenant governor, say, no, we're not moving this bill. You had the speaker come out and say, this bill is dead for this year. We're going to give the new mayor of Atlanta a chance. And then here comes an article in Insider Advantage talking about how that the Buckhead movement had received tremendous news. And there were a couple of things that were tremendous news. Beth Beskin, the former representative, had come out and taken her Republican colleagues to task for not passing the bill. I have nothing against Beth, served with her, love her and all, but I don't think that really shook the halls of the Capitol. Robert Trafalgar, the pollster, very weirdly said that this would be the deciding issue in the governor's race, which I really find hard to believe. I've had some people, I was at the Capitol this week, I had a person telling me that, no, it's an incredibly potent issue out there. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see it. Do you think people in Hayhira, are people in Hayhira sitting around thinking, daggone, man, those people in Buckhead ain't going to have a city? No. I don't think, therefore I'm voting for David Perdue. I think they're trying to set this up, I think, as a weird triple bank shot to help David Perdue. And I just don't see it. So when Trump's announcement, I guess, was the third great news that the Buckhead people got, according to Insider Advantage. And that was that Trump was about to come out in favor of this thing. And I thought, yeah, Buckhead, that might kill. If they got a referendum, Trump's speech might kill it just by itself.
Right. The whole state doesn't get the vote.
But I think they're trying to set it up as some kind of quadruple bank shot to help David Perdue. And I just don't see this being much of an issue in the governor's race. The reason why Trafalgar has said that this is a big issue is because when they polled it, they asked Republicans, do you think they should have a vote? And they said yes. But they didn't, there was no follow-up data in the poll to say whether or not that was like their number one issue or their deciding issue. So he extrapolated the amount of people who said, yeah, they should have a vote. If you ask the average Republican, should people in a region or area have the ability to vote on whether or not it should be in a city? They're going to say, yeah, sure, without even knowing anything about it, right? Right.
Give them the right to vote, right? But that being said, there are a whole lot of reasons why Buckhead is different. It's already incorporated. It's part of the city of Atlanta. You would have to actually secede. So that's never been done before. There's a whole bunch of complexity there that the legislature the cities are a creation of the legislature. So the legislature has every right to say yes or no, and they have criteria. You were part of that process, Buzz. They have criteria set up to say, this is what's good. This is a viable option for a city, and they'll send it to the voters at that time. But not the whole state doesn't get to vote for it. And I can guarantee you that my really plugged in Fox News watching twin brothers that live next to me don't care.
No.
Like they don't even know this is an issue.
What I was going to say, and sorry for interrupting, Scott, but the closest analogy we have is there was an attempt a couple of years ago. There was it got to a referendum to take some of, and I may have a city of Stockbridge and deincorporate it and form it into the new city of Eagles Landing. And the referendum failed. Right. The referendum failed. So we don't know. I know, I've got friends who are working on this issue, who are polling this issue in the city of Buckhead, and they say it's an absolute slam dunk, and they might be right. But, things change when you get to the ballot box and the people weigh in and start actually considering this. And I don't have an opinion one way or the other, whether it's a good idea or not. It's up to the people of Buckhead and the people of the city of Atlanta. And honestly, I think it was wise of Jeff Duncan and Speaker Ralston to set this aside and say, we've got a new mayor who says he's going to do something. Let's pause this thing and let's see what the mayor can do, because we are talking about real heavy duty financial impact to the city of Atlanta. And if you bankrupt the city of Atlanta, I know people don't want to hear this, but what are they going to do? They're going to turn around to the state of Georgia and say, you guys provided the method by which we are bankrupt. You got to bail us out. And the state of Georgia. And now that will get people mad, because people in Hayhira will say, why the heck am I bailing out the city of Atlanta? Well, you said it was the number one issue in the governor's race. So right. Yeah, it's all just a mess. And I just think it ties in with whoever, maybe the same person who thought it was a good idea for David Perdue to hang out with Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks that this is going to be, that this is a four bank shot winner for David Perdue.
Just amateur hour over the Purdue campaign. The one thing I'll note, since you brought up, hold on, Scott. Since you brought up the movement in Eagles Landing, I mean that's I grew up in Clayton and Henry counties. I went to high school at Eagles Landing High School, and I had moved out of the area by the time that referendum took place. But I know race played a prominent issue in that ballot referendum, and was ultimately defeated. Because you're talking about Eagles Landing. Eagles Landing is a very prominent subdivision on a golf course.
Yeah.
In that area of Stockbridge, and there are a lot of wealthy people who live there, and it's the Buckhead City movement on a much smaller scale. And racial politics played a huge role there, as they are in Buckhead City.
Yes, and the people of Buckhead are much more progressive on the issue of race, I imagine. I'm not making any accusations against the people I'm not trying to disparage anybody in Eagles Landing. I'm just going to say there's a lot more woke white folk in Buckhead than there are in Eagles Landing and Stockbridge.
Yeah.
So
the only thing I'll say about it is if the city of Buckhead wants to move forward next year or into the future, they need new leadership.
Yeah.
This leadership that they have currently is going to be a hindrance to their effort. And
they got to get the Buckhead Coalition. The big heavy hitters in that area are the Buckhead Coalition, the Buckhead business community. They're the ones who are going to decide whether that referendum passes or fails if it gets to a referendum. And they got to get them on board.
Well, moving along to our next topic, because we spent a lot of time on that. Moving on to our next topic, let's see here. Burt Jones, candidate for lieutenant governor, was the subject to a text message attack this week. The text reads: Burt Jones opposed past efforts to expand our Second Amendment rights. Like a typical politician, now that he's running for higher office, Burt will say and do anything to get elected. Burt can't be trusted to fight for us or stand up for us when it counts. Visit don'tbelieveburt.com today to learn the truth. Reply stop to unsubscribe.
Did you reply stop?
I didn't get the text.
I got the text.
Yeah.
I got the text. It was,
I don't think I got it.
I did not reply stop because I am a political pundit that likes to be plugged in when people are attacking others. I do not necessarily support. Look, I haven't decided who I'm voting for in the LG race. The two main candidates both have an opportunity to earn my vote over the next couple weeks. And I'm going to tell you that on a Sunday afternoon, getting a text like that is eye-opening. It was sent out by a group called Conservatives for Georgia, I think is what it was called. And I mean, this is we're in the middle of a legislative session. These are two guys who are part of the same caucus, and they're already bringing out the big guns, firing at each other like this. And I don't think I've seen this from the Burt Jones campaign yet. Not the negative side. We've seen some things like, he had a concert, and we saw that he had an ad out that he was endorsed by Donald Trump. But it seems like Butch's side is not afraid to go negative, even during the middle of a legislative session when there's a certain amount of cooperation that you need within your own caucus to get stuff done. And he's like, we're not waiting for sine die. The gloves are off. We're in this to win it, and we're going to go all the way.
Yeah, I mean, so I Scott, you sent a copy of it. I don't recall seeing a specific bill or vote mentioned, so I don't know. I mean, it would be a surprise to me that Burt Jones was not pretty strong on a Second Amendment. So, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
The organization, by the way, who funded the website is Conservative Georgia Fund, and he said that they have a clip of an article from the Jackson Progress Argus. I guess it's in. I don't know where the hell that is. He quotes Burt Jones as saying, "I wouldn't be interested in broadening or limiting any sort of gun rights."
Yeah, there's an ellipse in there, so it could be out of context.
That's true. And he says he doesn't support constitutional carry. And the title of the article is "Ethics Likely on General Assembly Agenda." Other pre-files included horse betting, gun laws. And that piece was published December 31st of 2012. So that's where the accusation comes from a story literally almost 10 years ago.
No Republican in the Senate voted against the campus carry, as an example. They just voted out constitutional carry.
The whole caucus was in favor of it, right? Republican caucus.
So I mean, it's really hard to make that stick on Burt. I think Burt has a voting record he can point to and say that's simply not true.
Yeah, I'm just perplexed by a story from 10 years ago that I don't know what the context of that was 10 years ago, but yeah.
Sounds like an article. I mean, we would get calls from the local newspaper, and I think that's probably the local newspaper down in the city of Jackson, and just saying, hey, here, give us your impression of what's going to happen in the session, and Burt got peppered with a bunch of questions and gave his answers. So
I couldn't tell if that was Jackson County or Jackson, Georgia. It looks like Jackson, Georgia. But that gives me a good segue into our next discussion. So constitutional carry has cleared the Georgia Senate, and there were comparisons to what's happening. Scott is applauding for those of you who are listening and not watching. Scott is a very happy camper right now. He's not there. There goes a smile. There's a smile from Scott. So this was a pretty interesting debate, considering what's happening in Ukraine right now with the invasion of the fascist Russian regime led by the authoritarian Vladimir Putin, that a number of Ukrainian soldiers have taken up arms. These are regular, everyday people who have taken up arms to fight for their country against...
including the Miss Universe contestant from Ukraine.
Miss Universe contestant, members of parliament. I actually listened to an interview with a member of parliament on BBC who the other day who was saying he's not much of a soldier, but he had gotten his Kalashnikov and he was ready to fight. You have this one member of parliament. Her name is Kira. I can't think of her last name, who has been a frequent guest on CNN and BBC and other news outlets, where she was pictured with her Kalashnikov AK-47. And you look, man. We were talking about this on Friday, and I mean, just even more so now, the resolve of people of Ukraine in fighting against a foreign invader. That said, going back to constitutional carry, this has been an issue that's been on the radar for the last several years, and it finally seems to be getting some legislative momentum. Gentlemen, is this thing heading to passage, or is Georgia finally going to see constitutional carry?
Well, I think because the governor's pushing it. It's part of his agenda. He's pushing it. He wants it. And I just feel like I feel validated because I was a sponsor of constitutional carry for years and years and years. I wasn't the author. I was a sponsor in the House. And we were told for years and years and years, that's a fringe issue. You're crazy. We need to have permit carry licenses for a whole host of reasons. Well, look, the people who made the argument, I wouldn't have gone here in the Senate. I wouldn't have made these arguments, but they were pointing to Ukraine, saying the reason that we need this bill, among other Second Amendment rights preserved, is because of what you're seeing on TV in Ukraine right now. And I would not have done that. I would not have made that argument, but it was a powerful argument because people are picking up arms, right? There are 300 million guns and there are roughly 330 million people in the United States. There are 300 million guns. So if any invasion force came here, Red Dawn would be a real thing, right? Wolverines everywhere, right? We'd all be screaming Wolverines, especially Gen Xers. We'd be out, we'd be hiding behind every rock and crevice.
Our time to shine.
Right. And Gen X would be to the rescue. We know how this movie ends, and America, it will have a beautiful morning sunrise again, and the American flag will still be waving because of Wolverines. And
all I want to do is play some Modern Warfare, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, so I can kill some Russians. That's all I want to do.
Right. But out of this debate came, I think, one of the clearest delineations between Republicans and Democrats in Georgia. Elena Parent, who is a state senator, former state house rep in the Atlanta area, tweeted to Greg Bluestein, that's why we have a strong military in the U.S. Thanks. I'll take the U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, National Guard over my untrained neighbor with a gun if Russia invaded Georgia. This Georgia, not the European Georgia.
They've already done that.
Right. They already did that. Right. So this is the difference between, in a nutshell, for me, when it comes to almost any issue, not just guns, between Republicans and Democrats. And that is Alina Parent's tweet demonstrates that if you're a progressive, that's somebody else's job. Somebody else can take care of that. Liberty and defending our country is somebody else's job. I'm just going to be at home. Okay. If we're invaded, I don't need my neighbor out there shooting people. He's untrained. I don't need to be out there shooting people. I'm untrained. We'll let somebody else take care of that. Whereas the conservative says, I want to make sure that if you are in that situation, you have the tools and the ability to defend yourself and your country and your way of life and your family and your property. And oh yeah, by the way, we're the ones who are fighting for that. And just it exposed for me in a nutshell the difference between right and left on this issue.
Yeah. No, I agree. Elena and I were elected at the same time in the House, and then reapportionment got to her, and she took her out, and she ran for the Senate. But yeah, she's a committed liberal, and this, I'm not surprised. She's said things like this. She's been consistent, at least. I'll give her that.
Yeah.
Right.
So in other moving along to another topic, another news, I skipped over this one, but I'm coming back to it. A federal judge has upheld Georgia's congressional maps. And this was, we talked about this last month on the podcast, that a federal judge, Steve Jones, had threatened to, if he found that the maps violated Black voters' rights, that he would even go as far as to delay the primary date currently scheduled for May 24th. He has declined to do that. What he has said now is that it's too close to the May 24th primary to make any sort of changes. His exact quote from his 238-page order, which I find to be oppressive. The court finds that the court finds that the public interest of the state of Georgia would be significantly undermined by altering the election calendar and unwinding the electoral process at this point. Elections are complex, and election calendars are finely calibrated processes, and significant upheaval and voter confusion can result if changes are made late in the process. It doesn't sound like he endorsed the maps per se, but it certainly sounds like, just given where we are on the calendar with the primary election a little bit more than 2 months away, seems like it's just too late.
Yeah, what really struck me is he didn't use the words the maps are okay or the maps are legal. What he said was, I might come back to this later. I just can't do it before this election, but that doesn't mean that I won't revisit it next time around.
Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, we have maps that are going to be, we're going to qualify candidates starting on Monday, and they know where the lines are. We're going to have a May 24th primary. That schedule is intact as a result of that ruling. And even though if it does cast long-term doubt, our current situation is we know what we're dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, these fights over maps go on years and years and years. So yeah, this not surprising. This isn't a dead issue yet, but
yeah, no. And he, I mean, no matter what he did, if he does come in and find and strike these down later, this case is ultimately going to go to the Supreme Court more likely than not. So some interesting news this week. I actually noticed this over the weekend that Randy Evans, who his son is running for Congress in Georgia 6th Congressional District. He is a longtime Georgia Republican Party operative, the former ambassador to Luxembourg, which we're also going to discuss. And he is taken to spending most of his time, or at least his free time, being a troll on Twitter.
Dude totally picked a fight with me over the weekend.
I mean, legitimately, who doesn't pick a fight with you?
Well, you, because you know better. Yeah, one, and
that's not the problem that he picked a fight with Scott. I mean, a lot of folks do that, but
yeah, I mean, I guess people want to try themselves, and try to slay the dragon. They come into the cave. Well, in this case, the troll came into the cave, and his name was Randy Evans, the former ambassador to Luxembourg. I used to have a ton of respect, and I use that word used. I used to have a lot of respect for Randy Evans. Like whenever I was in the same room with him, I was like, there is an awesome human being, right? And what happened was, before David Perdue decided to get in the race, Randy Evans, the former ambassador to Luxembourg, as appointed by Donald Trump, went to yeah.
Scott, for those of you who are listening, Scott's dog Joey just came into the
room. So back before Perdue got into the race, Randy Evans tweeted publicly, even if there is a primary challenge to Brian Kemp, I am on Team Kemp. And within days of him tweeting and posting that on social media everywhere, he backtracked and said, Brian Kemp, it cannot win, and therefore we need somebody else. And he was foreshadowing that he was going to be supporting David Perdue. Now, I called him out on that, right? But that was on December 10th. And we had an exchange on Twitter. You can go back and look at it. We went back and forth where I called him out for turning on his friend. Because he went in to see Brian Kemp and he saw Marty and Brian, and he said to them, I'm on your team no matter what happens. And within days, he flipped. So when I called him out on that, we had a back and forth and exchange, and I let it go, right? There have been a couple of times where he's gone off the rails on Twitter, but over this past weekend, he actually went and picked out that tweet thread from December 10th. And on February 26th, then the next year, he picked a fight with me and wanted to say that that because he was kicked out, he was representative of all of Trump voters, and that Brian Kemp does not want Trump voters, which I've said, no, he just doesn't want you. he wants Trump voters to vote for him. You know, what Republican wouldn't want Trump voters to vote for him? He wants them. He just doesn't want you. And by the way, he was right to not allow you into his inner circle because of the way that you're behaving now. And so he picks a fight with me. He picks a fight with like a dozen other people all day Saturday. He's spending it. I'm watching this unfold. I take my dog to the dog park. I'm watching Twitter. There goes Randy again. I'm taking him downtown Woodstock. Joey and I are walking around downtown Woodstock. We're getting the pup cup. There goes Randy again. He's going off. It's just left and right. Right. And so I'm like, all right. I get home. My daughter's watching Gilmore Girls. She's really in. She's watched every episode of Gilmore Girls like 15 times. I have a 13-year-old daughter. She loves Gilmore Girls. She identifies with Rory, and she has that type of relationship with her mother. So she's her favorite show. She watches it every night. And as the scene comes on where Rory's at a wedding party, and they're like, "Hey, we need to warn Rory about the MVPs here." Or and they're like, what is there to warn about? Well, the ambassador Luxembourg's kind of handsy. So I clipped that and I posted it to Twitter and I said, I didn't think of Randy Evans once when I saw this. I didn't think of him. Not one time did I think of Randy Evans. Well, he responds that I should go to bed, and because I'm obviously not a serious person because I wasn't watching the Ukraine coverage that day, and I was watching Gilmore Girls instead. To which I responded, "You've been arguing with people on Twitter all day,
and you didn't watch
a minute.
You weren't the only one."
Yeah, I wasn't. You weren't just arguing with me, but with a whole bunch of people all day long. You didn't watch any Ukraine coverage, so you have no right to call me an unserious person because my daughter watched a scene where the ambassador to Luxembourg was handsy.
David Perdue and Randy Evans may not be brothers, but they have the same daddy. Buzz, you got anything you want to say?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's the circles that Randy runs in. The timing of his backtracking of Kemp was around the time that Newt Gingrich came out and said, that Kemp can't win. And
the Virginian.
Yeah. But Randy was Newt's lawyer for a long time. So I guess he's just been pulled into that Trump orb. And I don't know what else to say other than just that Trump ruins everything he touches. And Randy Evans is another example of that.
Well, he's gone from being the ambassador to Luxembourg to living under a bridge because he is now the Twitter troll full time. And apparently, a piece came out today, guys. From
I was getting to that.
Politico.
You beat me to it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say a piece came out from Politico today, highlighted by Patricia Murphy from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. This is in Politico's foreign policy newsletter. It is titled "Life's Pretty Weird at the U.S. Embassy in Luxembourg." A new State Department Inspector General report includes quite a list of criticisms of how diplomacy is managed in Luxembourg. The deputy ambassador's house was too big, quote, resulting in approximately $207,000 in excessive costs over the life of the lease, close quote, while Trump appointed Ambassador Randy Evans, quote, berated and belittled staff members in public, close quote, which contributed to 42% of the staff leaving their posting early. That is a hell of a turnover. Yeah. Other problems included, quote, delays in the payment of Luxembourg staff income withholdings, income tax withholdings to the Luxembourg government, close quote, while Americans and local staff found themselves in regular interpersonal conflict. Hell of a job you did there, Brownie.
Homie, look, I've managed teams. I don't know how many people work for the embassy in Luxembourg, but I've managed national teams, 50 plus people. You know, I might lose one a year, maybe 42%. What were you doing, man? If your Twitter behavior is any indication of how you ran the embassy in Luxembourg, I can see why 42% of people would decide they didn't want to work for you anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. It just seems maybe spend less time on Twitter. By the way, just real quick tweet note. I've been following this is completely off topic, but I've been following the Kiev Independent, which is one of the sources of information coming from Ukraine. And a tweet reads, anti-corruption authorities, no need to declare Russian tanks as income. The National Agency for the Protection Against Corruption said that captured Russian equipment should not be declared to tax authorities because the value of this crap does not exceed 100 living wages. That's beautiful. And by the way, the video of the farmer like towing away a tank,
right?
That's awesome.
Tank. How pro?
I did see another.
2A are you?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, there was that was the accusation against Second Amendment people, right? Well, we don't need tanks. Well, in Ukraine, you do.
In Ukraine, in Soviet Russia, tanks drive you.
I saw. So speaking of since we're off topic, I saw a tweet, and I hope this is true. That there are people looting, apparently, allegedly, people looting in various parts of Ukraine. How terrible! Your country is under attack, and you're looting people. But they are taking them when they catch them, they strap them to a pole and leave them there for the police to come and get them. Sometimes by pulling their pants down and leaving their butts hanging out as they strap them to telephone poles and stuff. So
we know that those are real because the guy in those photos are wearing Adidas tennis shoes. So
that's Russia. That's Russia. I guess track shoots maybe popular in Ukraine too. But moving back on topic, so an honor bestowed on few. University of Georgia head football coach Kirby Smart got to walk down the center aisle in the Georgia House of Representatives this week. Wow. And that's what happens when you win a national championship for the first time in 40 years.
Right. I was shocked. I mean, I saw Andre Dickens, the mayor, get the same treatment, and I thought, I don't think I've ever seen that before. And I think you called it. I think somebody here called it. They said, well, when Kirby comes to the house, he'll get to walk down the middle aisle. Yeah. You called it. You were right.
Wait. Say it one more time.
You called it. You were right. Savor the moment. It happens so rarely.
Be like Pelosi from last night.
oh my gosh. How weird was that, by the way? Like all of them were trying to stand and clap at the wrong times. Anyway, everybody was super excited to see Kirby yesterday. The one cringe-worthy moment, I did see a picture where one of the Democrats handed him a Sharpie and a hat. And from the rear, it was a red hat. So it could have been a MAGA hat. I doubt it, though. Probably a Bulldogs hat, asking for an autograph as he was walking down the middle aisle. I thought that was a little cringeworthy. I probably wouldn't have done that myself, but I understand the excitement. Everybody, all of the House reps and senators were able to go get their photo taken with the trophy and the rotunda, which I thought was cool because the lighting in there equals a good photo almost every time. But the one person who didn't get to go because his Toby Carr works for UGA, and he's the one that told everybody, hey, come get your photo taken. He didn't pick up the phone and call his brother, Chris Carr, the Attorney General of Georgia, to let him know that the trophy was in the rotunda. So later on, Chris Carr walks over. He said, what's going on? No, yeah, the college football championship trophy was in the rotunda. He walks over, it's gone.
That was a pretty funny photo that he.
So Chris Carr takes a photo with him on the table, like everybody else that day, with just an empty table, saying, "When your brother works for UGA and doesn't tell you that the trophy's coming." And Brian Kemp, in a rare message on Facebook for everybody to see, says, "He did you wrong."
Yeah, I happened to be down there when Kirby was there, and whatever tensions may exist at the Capitol, there were no tensions in the room except for guys like me and Burt Reeves and others who
or Georgia Tech guys, yeah,
just prolonging our misery. All I can say is I'm happy. What?
Your time, well, actually, probably won't come, but yeah.
I'm happy my friends are happy. That's all I can say.
Oh, Buzz is a good guy.
He is a good guy.
So in other Georgia political news, Mark Butler, labor commissioner, is not seeking a fourth term, writing in a letter to his staff that while I enjoy developing good public policy, I no longer desire to be an elected official. The extra stress that being an elected official puts on one's family is not something that has a place in our current situation. His wife has apparently had an ongoing battle with cancer that has led him to take a different direction. So certainly can understand and certainly wish his wife the best as she goes through cancer treatment. Anything to add? I mean, this clears the way for, I think it's Bruce Thompson who's running for labor commissioner, so certainly clears the way for him.
And I wonder, I mean, I don't know. I wonder if others will jump in that race now. That who knows?
Well, Bruce Thompson's way ahead. I mean, he's been campaigning hard since last year's, really, what I noticed, last year's GOP state convention down Jekyll Island. He had a huge presence there. Mark Butler wasn't there. He's been traveling the state. He's been hitting the road real hard, trying to build up a formidable coalition of people across the state to get him elected. And he has the personal resources to throw in if he needs to. And I don't doubt that he will write himself a very large check to help him win that race. And he can. So he's a business-minded guy. He's one of the few people I've actually endorsed this cycle. And the reason why I did was because there needed to be a change there. I'm glad to see that Mark is going off on his own terms. I pray for him and his wife and her health and their well-being. I'm happy for Bruce. I'm hoping that nobody else gets in that race. I do know there is one other person who is probably not really a strong candidate for that race from the Republican side already, but there were definitely problems in that department under Mark. And so glad for him doing the right thing. I hope that serves as an example for others who maybe need to go find something else to do.
Well, I heard a rumor of a candidate. We'll see if it materializes.
So. Did Remy spit out something? You should go ahead and give us some unfounded, wild speculation.
I'm not at liberty.
We thrive on wild speculation here, Buzz.
I'm not at liberty to say.
Oh, that's not right. That's not right. I'll get it out of him. I'll let you all know.
Finally, before we go, I just want a quick note here that Governor Brian Kemp has signed a proclamation declaring April 2022 to be Second Chance Month. This is something that intersects with my day job. Second chances are hugely important to people who have a criminal record. Governor Kemp has actually signed legislation related to record sealing and expungement, and certainly appreciate that. These are predominantly for misdemeanor offenses, but certainly appreciate the recognition that he is showing for people who want to seek a better life for themselves and who often struggle to find avenues to seek a better life for themselves, because a criminal record can be in some ways a life sentence that inhibits employment opportunities, housing opportunities, and higher education opportunities. This is something we're working on a lot at the federal level through various pieces of legislation, like the Clean Slate Act and the Fresh Start Act, as well as the Kenneth P. Thompson and Begin Again Act. Each of those deal with various aspects of second chance policy. But it's something I wish those who have an interest in criminal justice would take more of a look at, because yes, we can talk about the sentencing disparity between crack cocaine and powder cocaine all day long. We can talk about recidivism reduction and so on. Let's just be honest here: the best recidivism reduction program is a good job.
Yep.
I would thank Governor Kemp for signing this, and let's also continue to pursue second chance policies in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, that's good stuff, and I echo your praise, Jason, and thank you. You working. This is what you do for a living, is work on these sorts of issues. So that's good stuff. And since we mentioned Bruce Thompson, one of his bills passed out of committee that's sort of related to this, related to helping people get jobs. That would I forget the number, Senate Bill 352 maybe, but anyway, it's a small piece of legislation, but it's really important. It would allow judges to give them some flexibility on suspending a driver's license if a person does various things, for example, failing to show up at court, misses court, or that sort of thing. It would give the judge some flexibility to decide whether that's an appropriate remedy or not. And I think this is important because of what you just mentioned, Jason. Jobs. You lose your driver's license, you're going to lose your job. And that's going to, for some people, that could send them on a very, very bad spiral to bad places. And giving the judge, it seems like a common sense thing to give the judge the flexibility to take into account other extenuating circumstances in those kind of cases. So
yeah, there's a federal bill related to that called the Driving for Opportunity Act that would incentivize states to get rid of suspending driver's license for failure to pay fines and fees. If you want someone to pay their fines and fees, I don't see how suspending their driver's license is going to help them do that. But Scott,
I need a job to pay your fines and fees. So
yeah, exactly. Scott, I'll give you the last word here before we close out.
No, I don't have anything to add to that. These are the types of things that I'm grateful for you to do, Jason. Yeah. I'm grateful for your work, and as much crap as we give each other all the time and good natured ribbing, it's an honor to know you because of this is the type of work that you do.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And you said nice things to me today, so I don't know how to respond to any of that. So
don't get used to it.
Yeah, I trust me. I won't.
Since we're all happy, maybe we could figure out how to get baseball back and get the players union and Major League Baseball back on the same page.
Before we go, here's the question of the week: who is the worst human being, Vladimir Putin or Rob Manfred?
Oh man.
Well,
it's not so easy, is it?
It's Putin by like a nose length.
It's not so easy. It's not so easy.
I had to do some self contemplation on that one.
Yeah. Seriously, if I was as bad at my job as Rob Manfred is at his, I wouldn't have a job.
All I'm saying is it's time for armed insurrection. That's all I'm saying.
Speaking of the Second Amendment, maybe even Senator Parent would support that.
Maybe.
I want my baseball, damn it.
Exactly.
Right.
That's all the time. By the way, I should note, even though the Braves may not be starting up at the beginning of April, you can go see the Gwinnett Stripers or any other minor league baseball team in Georgia. They are not affected by the lockout.
College baseball is playing.
That's right. You can go.
We have really good teams. The state of University of Georgia and Georgia Tech are both highly ranked, really good baseball teams with lots of pro prospects on both those teams.
Yep, and so you can go see the Gwinnett Stripers, the Rome Braves, the Augusta Green Jackets. Yeah, the Augusta Green Jackets, which are technically in South Carolina, but they're in Augusta, whatever.
Savannah Bananas.
You can go see any of those teams, and I think it's mid-April is when the minor league season starts. Hey, Joey, you so cute. Scott's got his dog. So you can go see any of those teams in mid-April, and tickets are super cheap, and you can live like a king at a minor league baseball game for like $20. Yep. So go do it.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's all the time we have for this week. Thanks for joining us on the Peach Pundit Podcast. Make sure you download, like, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all the things. Peace out. Have a good week. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Later, guys.